Say what you want about anime video games, but personally, I love them. In fact, there's one in particular that I love, J-Star's Victory Versus. After all, it introduced me to so many anime that I love, for example, Gintama and The Disastrous Life of Psyche K. It also introduced me to Nisekoi. Oh boy, I'll get to that one day. But one of the shows it really introduced me to was a show called Beelzebub. This is Alex of the Anime Egotist, and we're going to take a good look at what in the blue hell was Beelzebub. Beelzebub is kind of a fascinating series. It's not really a series I hear people talk about a whole lot, but every now and then when I bring it up, people think, oh yeah, that show. Basically, the premise is, well, simple for an anime. A bunch of delinquents running around in a school, and one of the main delinquents, Oga, ends up taking care of Lord Biel, or Beelzebub. Basically the son of a demon lord. You know, normal anime stuff. Once upon a time, in a land far away, there was a handsome, cool, and popular young man whom everyone looked up to. No, seriously, that's how the delinquent Oga describes himself in the very first episode. It's kind of hilarious. With Oga is his best friend Furichi. Unlike the other delinquents, Furichi doesn't really like fighting. He's actually a really nice guy, but he's a lot smarter than all the other delinquents, and he's kind of a pervert. Or at least he just likes to flirt with women a lot, which is basically what a pervert is in anime. They go to a school in Japan known as Ishiyama High School, and this school isn't really big on teachers or principals or authority figures or anything like that, but it's run by the group known as the Toho Shinki, the 4 strongest people at their school. The members of the group are Kanzaki, Himekawa, Kunieda, and Tojo. You'd think all of them would want to go work together, but they actually have their own subgroups of delinquents working for them. It's kind of a nice touch, with the exception of the female students who only follow under Kunieda, the strongest female at the school. But back to Oga and his baby. Basically, Baby Biel, like I said, is the son of the Demon Lord. He's very attached to Oga, and he's supposed to be taken care of by Oga until he grows up. Oga gets help with this thanks to Biel's caretaker, Hilda, and it's safe to say Hilda is kind of terrifying. She's very no-nonsense around everybody except Baby Biel, and she's oddly really sweet and caring towards him, which is just hilarious. At the same time, though, I'm not messing with her. Not again. At first glance, Oga is the exact last person to be raising a child, much less a demon child. But at the same time, though, he does show that as the series progresses, he starts to care about the baby he's taking care of, and it's actually a great source of character development. It's a nice touch. What isn't nice for Oga, however, is whenever Baby Biel starts to cry or get upset, it starts shooting electricity, and this isn't like a couple of volts. No, this Baby Biel could probably take on Pikachu at this rate, and it's a little terrifying, I'm not gonna lie. Damn, babies actually do this? I feel so bad for mothers. Anyways, as the series progresses, especially in the beginning, Oga wants to fight a good majority of the delinquents. He beats Kanzaki really easily, and one of his henchmen, Natsume, noticed just how strong Oga is and takes note of it. Later, he fights Himekawa, who's basically the rich boy of the school, and takes him out relatively easily. And while at first you shouldn't really like the fact that Oga's beating all of these people so easily, especially the 4 strongest people, trust me, there's a payoff to it. Mostly. Kanzaki is a ruthless, sadistic fighter who also happens to love yogurt, because I guess everybody has to have a hobby. And he also has these 2 subordinates. One is Shiroyama, who he's pretty much turned into his lackey, who will do pretty much anything to please him. He's a bit loyal to a fault. And Natsume, who I'll get into a little bit later, but I think he's probably my favorite character. He doesn't fight a whole lot, but I just love how much of a smartass this guy is. Seriously, he has some of the funniest lines in the show. Himekawa is a spoiled, rich jerk who pretty much doesn't like fighting that many people. Instead, he'll pay people off to do it, or pay people to become his lackeys. But he's a bit of a dirty fighter, but he's a delinquent, what do you expect? He's also known by his trade pompadour, which people have poked fun at a lot, and apparently it has the ability to bounce when it gets pressed too hard. We also see what he's like after his pompadour gets taken down, and it's a bit different, to say the least. Oh my god, he's hot. Whatever. I don't care. I didn't notice. Next is Kunieda, the strongest female at the school. She gets into a lot of fights with Hilda, and actually makes for a pretty interesting rivalry. It makes me sad that we never got to see one last fight between the two, but their interactions were always great. Not to mention, Kunieda ends up developing a crush on Oga, which, as we know for most people, it just sort of ends with Oga being completely dense. Heck, there's a moment where she gets into a disguise when they're outside of school and he's even not able to pick up on it. I should hate how stupid it is, but it's stupid, but in a good kind of way. She runs a group of delinquent-esque girls named the Red Tails, and they're all pretty competent. It's implied that most of them are able to take out a lot of the guys in the school. It's a really nice way of showing that the females in this show are pretty damn powerful without having them overdo it, like some shows end up doing. The Red Tails don't get the most in character development, but my favorite might be Chiaki, just mainly because as much of a badass as she tries to be, she's also a video game nut, so that also helps. Seriously, when they're creating their video game avatars, it's the best part of the show. It's one of the most hilarious parts. Lastly, there's Tojo. As big and scary as he is, he's actually a really nice guy who loves animals and kids, but he is one of the most dangerous fighters in the show. Seriously, he pretty much wipes the floor with Oga the first time he fights them. One of the coolest things about this show at first is, as much as you'd like to see all these super powerful attacks and all this other sorts of thing, the show starts off with just basic regular attacks like punches, kicks, weapons. As a wrestling fan, there are a lot of wrestling moves like German suplexes and that sort of thing. It actually makes for a really compelling start before all the super powerful moves show up. It was a nice but slow touch. As the series progresses, more and more of Baby BL's demon powers are unlocked, such as fire, more enhancements to the body and speed, just a whole lot of different attacks, not to mention just super milk time. That's all I'm gonna say, super milk time. After Oga and Tojo's fight completely destroys the school, the school actually stays gone for several months in real time. They end up going to their sister academy where a lot of the delinquents aren't well liked, and this is when the character development really starts to take form. For example, Shiroyama gets taken out by some of the other students, and in the old days, Kanzaki wouldn't necessarily care that much. He would claim that Shiroyama was weak. But nowadays, after all the training they've done together, Kanzaki is pissed. It's just really nice to see after all the filler episodes they spent together, they were actually becoming better friends, and not just subordinates. This is part of one of my favorite arcs of the series, when the two rivaling schools are going up against each other. Seriously, the episodes where they're fighting up on the roof are some of the best parts because everybody gets some time to shine. Kanzaki gets to show that he actually cares about his friends and everybody else. Himekawa shows how crafty he can be, and Natsume just kind of shoves some guy off of him out of an armbar. I'm sorry, I just love this guy. He's hilarious. Finally, it's decided that the two rivaling schools will compete in a game of volleyball. I've had the fate of the world settled in card games, so I guess it's not completely out of the realm of possibility. During the volleyball game, it's pretty obvious that the delinquents are pretty much cheating and pretty much turning this into basically just a fight, but it's still hilarious and still in tune with the characters. Of course, the good guys end up winning, and it's a really weird but still kind of epically awesome arc. I highly recommend it. It's also at this part that we see the other delinquents have not been slacking off. Despite being one-shotted by Oga, they're actually training, they're actually getting better, and from the looks of it, it seems like they're almost on Oga's level. It's nice to see because we usually see the reverse of that. the side characters being better than, or just at the level of the main characters, but the second they join the team or something else happens, boom, they're basically back to being worthless. But this is the reverse. The characters start off weak, and then all of a sudden, they basically become stronger. It's a nice progression. It's underrated. There are a couple of other characters I haven't really talked about, like Oga's family, his sister in particular being the former leader of the Red Tails. The MK5 were pretty much the Team Rocket of the show, basically there to get their asses kicked, but no harm, no foul. There's Shimakawa, who can't even spell his own catchphrase. He's harmless, he's pretty hilarious. And finally, there's Lord N, who's Baby BL's bigger brother. Yeah, I'm not too much of a fan of him. He's basically just there to complain and act kiddish, more kiddish than his baby brother, but go figure. There's also Lamia, who is a basic tsundere-type little kid character. I would have hated her a lot more, but she actually got her comeuppance compared to most other tsunderes in anime. Whew, wouldn't that be nice to see? The delinquents team up together again and basically face Lord N and his maid trio thing, one of them being Hilda's twin sister, in a basic Call of Duty knockoff. Like I said, one of the funniest scenes of the game, just because we get to see what everybody's avatars are. Seriously, check out that scene, it's perfect. We got some great action, humor, character development, and even a little bit of romance in this series, but sadly, this is where the series started to take a dive. There was a lot of filler between this previous arc and the last episode of the series. Not that filler is always bad, but it's not necessarily what we want to see. There are demons in the underworld, and they should be preparing for them, but there's just a lot of filler that you don't really need to watch. One of the best ones is probably Hilda's birthday and what they're all going to do for it. The one where Oga and Baby BL switch bodies, which is actually a pretty cute one, especially with Kunieda and her reactions to it because of her crush on Oga. And when the delinquents are trying to come up with new secret techniques. That's a good one. One of the overarching themes that they kind of try to do in these series of episodes is having one of the adults, Zenjiro, train people like Tojo and Oga, and as cool as it is to see, it would have been nice if we'd gotten just a little bit more of it. Heck, in the manga, it's heavily implied that everybody went to train, and Natsume ended up being the strongest out of everybody. Yeah, Natsume, the guy I was talking about earlier, he doesn't get a whole lot to do in this series, but it's implied that he's one of the strongest people in the whole show. He ends up one-shotting one of Tojo's subordinates, and it's one of the most shocking things we see. Sadly, we didn't get a whole lot more of him, but it is what it is.
It is what it is. It is what it is.
Anyways, back to the main story. The demons from the underworld start to invade and want to basically take over the world, and this is when we really start to see how strong Oga has gotten. Because not only does he have his wrestling moves, techniques, punches, and all this other sorts of stuff, but he also has his demon powers. The Zebo Blast, which is basically just a blast of fire. The Zebel Emblem, which is probably one of the most fun moves to do in J-Stars, where he shoots an emblem at his opponent, punches them, and as he punches them, there's an explosion. It's pretty neat. There's also Super Milk Time, which is when he drinks some of Baby BL's milk. Sure, go for it. And they basically fuse into one and become a basically butterfly moth thing with wings. It sounds ridiculous, but it has one of the most badass moments in the entire series when he causes a giant pillar of explosions. It's even better than I thought it would be, and this is coming from somebody who only played the games at first. The end of this arc shows Baby BL and Oga getting sucked into the demon world. The next episode, everybody's completely worrying about them and they're terrified, only for them to pop up back, because Baby BL's dad is, I guess he just likes to play jokes. Yeah, he's never treated as that much of a threat throughout the series, he's just sort of this clueless idiot. Had some good laughs. Yeah, this was a pretty lackluster finale. I'm not going to say there was a lot of hype going into this, because we never really learned that much about the Demon Lord, but it still could have been super cool. It would have been nice to see a giant battle, and sadly, the anime never got renewed for another season or anything like that, so this was just kind of what it ended on. Pretty disappointing if you ask me. Overall, though, Beelzebub was a really fun series. Sure, the ending wasn't great, but there's a lot of fun characters, great arcs, some really underrated fight scenes in anime, and it's just a fun ride all around. Heck, you guys know I'm not the biggest romance person, but even I enjoyed Kunieda and Oga's relationship with each other. They were pretty hilarious at times, and it was shown that Oga did legitimately care about her. He's just way too dense to do anything about it, but hey, it works out. It's weird because when I first started watching Beelzebub, I was also watching Gintama at the same time. I figured Gintama would be a lot more hilarious, but not as serious as it was, and I thought Beelzebub would be a lot more serious, but not as comedic. Safe to say I was wrong on both fronts, especially for Gintama, because dear god, it gets serious sometimes. But what did you guys think? Did any of you watch Beelzebub? Did my words convince you to watch Beelzebub at any point? Anybody who read the manga, how good was it? Should I start? Or do you think that the anime was better than the manga? I would love to hear for that. And would you like a remake of this series? Because I certainly would, especially a dub. That could be some great stuff. But anyways, put it down in the comments and let us know. This is Alex of the Anime Egotist saying good night and peace easy. Also, if a very tall, muscular man with a mustache named Alandalon offers to transport you somewhere, just go with him. You can trust him.